Hello, all you friends, you neighbors, you family, you comrades, sisters, and brothers, all citizens of the world. It's time for another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. I'm Michael James. I'm here in Chicago, and this show is for the week of February 4th. We are recording it on Wednesday, February 1st, and our guests today will be people who are very much involved in the new police district councils here in Chicago. We're going to have Marilyn Pagan Banks, who is the candidate for that, as well as a couple of organizers who've been working on this project for a while, Joe Iosbaker and Frank Chapman. All three are currently organizers in their communities and are involved in the campaign for police district council. So stay tuned for all the information that you will need to go out and be a good citizen and put into your vote. Here in Chicago, we are gearing up for the February 28th election. If none of the candidates or any of the candidates don't receive 50%, there will be plus one, there'll be a runoff on April 4th. So you should know those dates, Tuesday, February 28th and Tuesday, April 4th. If you go to Block Club Chicago, you will be able to find everything you need to know about the election coming up. You can also find that at the Reader. We are having an election here in Chicago for our mayor, for our city clerk, our city treasurer, our city council, and there are 50 aldermanic seats up for that, as well as the new police district councils. So I've been getting in the spirit of the election season. Last Saturday, after watching, or actually I both watch on the YouTube version as well as I listen on WLUW, to our show, the Live from the Heartland show. I went out, I went to an event held by our state rep, Kelly Cassidy, and then I went to a rally in Uptown for one of the mayoral candidates, Chuy Garcia. Then I drove around in the snow. I want to encourage people, no matter who you support in these elections, it's really good to get out and vote. It's really important. And one little bit of information on the voting. And during the mayoral debates, there are 9 candidates. Every one of the mayoral candidates running for the position of mayor of the great city of Chicago, the windy city of big shoulders, they have all come out and said they would get a new police commander or superintendent. Everyone except the current mayor has agreed to that. I'm not taking a strong position on that, but there is a lot of criticism of the current head of the police department. Here in the 49th Ward, which is our home base, I reported last week that our congressional rep, Jan Schakowsky, had secured money to reopen the High Ridge Y. That's good. And on that same note, the word out this week is that the metro station at Ravenswood and Lunt is going to get rebuilt, finally. People are glad about that. It's going to have a number of amenities and changes, but people are pretty concerned about the lack of maintenance on the existing structure and wonder if the next one will be completed in 5 years will be better on the maintenance. So city fathers and mothers, et cetera, pay attention to that because we like a nice, secure, clean, neat metro station in our neighborhood. On the labor front, this is being reported a number of places on Wednesday. A long-running dispute over pay and working conditions came to a head on Wednesday. That when you listen to this on Saturday, that would have been today, with hundreds of thousands of British workers, close to 500,000, taking part in the biggest day of industrial action in over a decade. Over 500,000 workers joined in the day of mass action, which includes teachers, train drivers, university lecturers, bus drivers, civil servants, and airport staff. They are all staging a walkout. The huge show of discontent comes amid rampant inflation and years of stagnant wage growth, plus further pressure on the long-ruling conservative government grappling with the cost of living crisis. Let's go to sports. I'm sad to say, but perhaps it's a good move for her, that Candace Parker, a native of the Chicagoland area and a WNBA star, Women's National Basketball Association, who brought a title to Chicago, is leaving the Chicago sky, and she's going off to Las Vegas. While we wish her well with the Las Vegas Aces, we certainly are going to continue to root for the Chicago sky. Last week on our show, we had a really interesting report from Brian Meir, an old-time friend who lives in Brazil. We did a Zoom with him, and he filled us in on Bolsonaro being up here in the States and Lula's moves down there in Brazil. I did read that Lula is not sending weapons to Ukraine, although I think he's positioning himself to be a broker in some kind of peace between Russia and the Ukraine. The other guests we had were Dave Kraft from the Nuclear Energy Information Service, and he filled us in on nukes not being so good. And then we had the wonderful music of Wendy Morgan, Daryl Boggs, known as DB, and Ivy Ford, Into the Little Blue House. They're up for a Grammy. So all of those interviews can be seen in one big group or individually if you go to youtube.com/heartlandmedia/videos. And on the in memoriam front, it's at my age, there's a lot of people moving along. A dear friend of both Katie Hogan and myself from the neighborhood, Irene Mitchell, passed away last Friday. She's been living in Asheville, North Carolina for a long time. We're holding her friends and her family, her sister, Lynn, who worked at the Heartland and performed there too. Her daughter, Marin, and the grandkids, they're in our hearts. Irene was both a sweet soul and tough as nails. Katie, in particular, connected with Irene as a good girlfriend back before the days of the Heartland, when they both still drank regularly in bars on Sheridan Road. And Katie put this in, peace, sister. Peace, sister. We're just going to leave it at that. On the musical front, Barrett Strong, the Motown artist known mostly for his song Money, has died at 81. He also did other great tunes or was part of the team that put them together, like I Wish It Would Rain, Day In, Day Out, My Tear-Stained Face, Pushed Against the Window Pane, etc. The Money tune I could probably sing too, but we're going to let Barrett sing it. And after he does a little bit of Money, we're going to come back with more live from the Heartland. So stay tuned here on the left end of your dial. It's a good place to be if you're listening. And if you are watching on youtube.com/heartlandmedia/videos, that's great too. And just know this, everybody, beginning this week, actually tomorrow on February 2nd, we have a permanent slot on CAN-TV Channel 21. So you can watch us on TV, you can get us on Google and Spotify podcast, and you can listen to us on WLUW and on Saturday mornings. It's also streamed. So we'll be right back with more Live from the Heartland. We'll be talking about the Police District Council. Okay, we're back with more Live from the Heartland, and now we're going to bring on our next guest, and that would be the one, the only, the Reverend Dr. Marilyn Pagan Banks. And Marilyn is a longtime friend here in the 49th Ward, home base for this show, and she runs a Just Harvest, feeds a lot of people, has really worked hard on a lot of fronts, and she is now a candidate for the new Police District Council for this 24th district that we're in. And we're going to talk to her a little bit about that. But just so you all know, she is not only a mother and a wife, but a grandma, and she's been working in our community for over 20 years. So good day to you, Marilyn Pagan Banks. How are you?
Buenos dias, Michael. I'm good.
Buenos dias, sister. Hermana.
Hermano, yes. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing great. I mean, for February 1st, some folks practice dry January, but I feel like I just went through hell January because just so many things already happening in our world and in my life that just reminds me that we have work to do. And while we have to do it with love and, grounded in love, we also have to do it with a sense of urgency, right? So while we have these wins, we build on them. We don't lean back on them. So I'm glad it's a new day. I'm glad it's a new month because it's been one. It's been one.
Right on. Well, I read a quote from you that I'm going to share with our listeners and viewers. You said, if we want a safe community, then all must have enough to eat, earn a livable wage, access meds if needed, and have a place to truly rest. If we want a beautiful community, then all must know dignity and respect, have a clear sense of belonging, and be truly seen. When did you say that? Because I don't know where I got it. I probably either got it from Block Club or the Sun Times or the Tribune or Channel something or other.
The first time I said it was when we were talking about our wellness work in the fall of 2017. And it's actually on the front of a magazine, our annual magazine. And then I just put it in my signature because it just really resonates with where we are as an organization and where I believe we need to be as a community when we talk about the well-being of our community. I keep hearing all these politicians on TV running for mayor talking about crime, and we're going to end crime and put more police out there. And we need to, the way to stop crime is to, the way to stop crime is to address the causes of it before it even happens, right?
We've been saying that for years, but there's a lot of people who don't listen.
Oh, crazy. You would think it'd be an easy thing to understand, but we know money and all those things play into it. But people need to be able to eat. People need to be able to care for their families. I'm not trying to romanticize crime. I'm not saying every crime is a crime of need, but so many are. And for so many, that's where it starts, right? It starts there. Then they get caught in the system. Then because our system is bent on punishment and not transformation, right? They, folks come out and then there's this cycle. Then, next thing you know, it's a hot mess out there. But, they talk about making this the first thing we need to do. A turning around Chicago is when you can walk down the street safe. No, a turning around Chicago is when no one is hungry, no one is sleeping in the park, and no one gets stopped just for driving while Black, right? That's how you turn around Chicago. Sorry.
I like that. That's good.
You can ask me to preach.
One of the major efforts that is the focus of today's show is turning Chicago around on police accountability. And following you, we have Joe Iosbaker and Frank Chapman coming on. And I'm sure you know them both because they're very active in this movement citywide. Yes. To create the police district councils, or the Police Oversight Board, I've been calling it, but I think correctly it's Police District Council. Tell us about what the Police District Council is and why you're running for a position on it.
The Police District Councils are really about public safety. And we call them police district because that's how they're being sort of positioned in geography. But it's really about the community creating a sense of well-being and safety, right? And so our responsibility is to create spaces for those ideas to happen and to be sort of like a liaison to the commission around the resources needed to make that happen. But we're also there so that if there is a complaint against police misconduct or something like that, that we are able to try to point folks in the right direction. We are not coming with all the answers. This is not going to be a magic wand that suddenly makes things all better. But we believe that if we're centering the community, their ideas, their wishes, and what safety looks like, and begin to kind of address those, we can have a positive and real and great impact on what's happening. This is the time to do it, right? This kind of so-called post-COVID. We did it around mutual aid, and I think we can show up for each other in the same way around safety and keeping our communities thriving and not just sort of protecting ourselves.
Well, this is a good thing, and it's a long time coming. I'm going to explore that a little bit later with the other guests, going back to the Black Panther Party and their community control patrols. We actually, in Uptown, I worked with a group called Join Community Union in the late 60s, and we took some bus following the police around. Tell us a little bit about the people running from our district, which is the 22nd, I believe, 24th district. Yeah. You're running as part of a slate, and we had one of your members on to talk about this. There are other people running, and it's my understanding that the slate that you're a part of are being challenged by candidates who are part of the Friends of the Fraternal Order of the Police. So there is a battle going on citywide around this, but there's an awful lot of progressive people in on it. Tell us a little bit about how it works and about your slate.
So the slate is made up again of myself, Veronica Ariola, who was on your show, and Edvite Jones. What I love to tell folks is that we were asked, right? We didn't raise our hand and say, ooh, I want to run. I want to be this. Not that there's anything wrong with folks stepping up, but we were asked based on our relationships across the community, right? Veronica's in the 50th Ward, and there's part of our district is there. Edvite is on the south side of the gang fight, and I'm on the north side of the gang fight. And we've been talking for years, again, not having all the answers, but building relationships to find ways to end and squash that battle that has taken too many lives already. And so these relationships are key, and being able to have conversations, not just with our own little sector or block, but across the district. And a lot of us already have, again, as you mentioned, long time experience doing this kind of work, whether it's community organizing around reproductive rights or circle keeping. Both Edvite and I are restorative justice circle keepers. And so our heart is really in a transformation and believing that even, whatever we might think about somebody, I have kids who are on the other side of 35 already. So I believe in redemption, right? And somebody asked, and I'm going to say this because my daughter gave me permission. Someone said, how can someone who has a child who's a felon be fair to the police? And for one thing, this position is not about us being fair to the police. It's about us having just policing in our communities that is community-centered and community-led, right? And my daughter has never gotten in trouble again. That was 16 years ago. She's a business owner. She actually owns more than one business, and she takes care of her children, and she's doing well. And I think that if she's an example of when you have resources that you can't turn your life around, and one mistake doesn't have to mean the end of your life. And so if we're saying we want safety, we have to believe that about our neighbors, right? We have to believe that if we have the proper resources and get to know what the needs are and the gifts, we can turn things around. So Edvite and Veronica and I bring this mix that I think is exciting. And we're looking forward to working together. And with the community.
How much opposition are you getting from others who are on the challenging you on the ballot? I thought this was resolved, but I don't know if it is.
It was resolved, and then they tried to appeal. So what they did was they took it to the next level of court and appealed the Board of Elections. But we just got news last night that we won that too. Hey. But that doesn't mean that the battle is over, because again, they've already, from what I read about WBZ, I think said they spent like $25,000 already on legal fees trying to knock all of us, not just us three, but all who ran as a slate. Because again, it was a very organized kind of thing. And these are progressive people. These are people who have been in this movement for a long time, who know how to do the work and aren't going to back down, right? We're the ones who are sort of being targeted. And, I think the good thing about it, our press is good press, so they're giving us some press and making themselves look ridiculous, if you ask me.
Let me ask you what's your assessment of the 24th District Police Department? Over the years, I've known a commander who was pretty friendly, didn't last there long. I've known various officers, had some employees who became police officers. So I hear things both positive and negative about the police. What's your general assessment of the police in this district?
My assessment is that the police commander has changed a whole lot. And so that affects how, leadership happens out there in the street, right? And so that has also affected how people feel in terms of the intentionality and commitment of that department. It's like, okay, are we the ones who are always getting this change? Why? Do we really matter? You're not going to invest in us. You say you want us to be well, but you won't invest in us and keep folks here. I think that we tend to be over-policed at times, at least over here north of Howard. I hear from folks who have been impacted by all types of violence that, that they don't feel like they're being protected or served. But even when they are victims, they're re-victimized. And that sometimes this whole way of looking at sort of cameras and shot spotters isn't done in a consistent way. And so some folks never get what they call justice because or get an issue resolved because of information isn't found out. But when sometimes those same tools are used in ways that are unconstitutional or, like kind of harboring on people's rights because they just walking down the street, but you happen to think you saw something. So you're going to come, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, well, if you can catch this, why can't you catch that? If you look really hard because you're trying to find, something out, why can't you look really hard to find out, what happened to the baby or happened to the neighbor, right? So
Marilyn Pagan Banks.
There's not a lot of trust, unfortunately. And I'm hoping, where there's no trust, there's going to be a hard way moving forward. So I'm hoping we can, at the minimum, begin to build that trust that's going to need to happen across the community in order to make the change. No one wants their child to die, right? No one. So I think that we can come together and comment around that we want our families to live and we want our communities to thrive. So we can start there and begin to kind of figure out how that looks for all of us together.
Marilyn, we could talk a long time, and you and I have talked a lot over the years. But how about telling people a little bit about what led you? I know that you people in the community wanted you to be part of this slate that's running for this position, for the community-based oversight of the police, the community police districts. And what though led you in your life to this place? Probably talk a little bit about Just Harvest.
Yes. And so again, A Just Harvest is not endorsing me. I'm not doing this during work time, just to be very clear. But I am the executive director, and it is that life work, that heart work that has led me to saying yes when I was asked to run. Because again, I have seen the giftedness of the community. I have seen the community step up in some beautiful and powerful ways when you ask, what are your dreams and what are the possibilities if you had resources? We've helped to incubate businesses. We've seen people go off to college because they've been apprentices with us and seen other opportunities. And so we believe that if you invest with love in the community, not once, not waiting until somebody turns their life around to pay attention, but to see people where they are right now and invest in people. That's what's led me here. And again, my own babies, right? My own babies. I have 12 beautiful grandchildren, and they're amazing. And I love every last one of them. And I want them to live full lives and their children. And so we got to start now. And I think
what does
going back local is just really important these days. And
tell people what Just Harvest does, because you feed a lot of people.
Yes. So A Just Harvest is an anti-hunger organization in Rogers Park. We are in our 40th year, so be looking out for many, many opportunities to celebrate with us. We serve every single day from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. You don't need to show proof of anything. Michael, if you want to go eat, you can go eat. Everyone is welcome. You come and get a nice, delicious hot meal to go. We are returning back to sit down, figuring some of that out. We also work with veteran communities. We do urban agriculture, both in the schools and with formerly impacted folks in the community. We're building a wellness center because we believe in the wellness of the community, providing therapy, yoga, case management, all those things.
That's good. Now, let me ask you one more question. As a pastor, the Reverend Marilyn Pagan Banks, how has your ministry played out in your many years of work in our community and in the broader community?
That I love that question. The very first sermon I preached was, I called myself a love theologian and got kind of laughed at, but I realized this 20 something years later, and after 21 years out of Just Harvest, that's exactly what I am. And not in that kind of wimpy, I think everybody's all sweet and Pollyannish, but the love that says, I believe in the humanity. I believe that we're all created in God's image. And that connects me to the speaking that into people, no matter what they're doing. I tell the guys on the block, look, if you get up every day and do this, you can get up every day and do something that's going to speak life into you. But we have to have it. I can't just tell them, right? I actually have it for them to be able to access. And so I think I've been called to accompany people to a walk with people. You know, I used to think I was called to be the mama, but I'm not. I'm called to walk with people and to journey with them and to delight in their gifts because we all have them. Michael, I mean, look at you. The many things that you do is inspiring. And the ways you use your gifts in your work and in your life, that's what I'm trying to show folks that they can do, you know, in their everyday life. You can do what you love and build your community at the same time.
I love hearing you talk. You always are. I've listened to you many times. I've also talked to you in your ear a few times. I want to remind people that you are a candidate for the Police District Council for the 24th District, and that election is on February 28th. It's real important people pay attention to this. This is a real opportunity for an achievement around a community police relationship that is wanting.
Yes, and check out the website, please. Uniting24.com, Uniting24.com. And, you know, when you think about it and love us, punch 72, 73, and I'm 74.
Those are some of my favorite numbers, but I live beyond 72, 73, and 74. So I'm moving to another favorite number.
Yes.
Okay. Marilyn, it's been great talking to you. I know you got to go teach school. Where do you teach?
Yes.
You're at Northwestern or where?
I'm going to be teaching at Garrett this afternoon. Peer facility.
Garrett Theological Seminary.
They'll be teaching me. The students.
I almost went to seminary. You know, I could have gone to, I think it was Peabody or something at Harvard, where they were looking for people who were open to, but not planning on being a minister. But I got into the revolution and socialism, and we'll talk about that another time.
That's your ministry.
Okay, sister.
Yep. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And everybody out there, stay tuned to Live from the Heartland. We're going to have more guests, a little more music, and so we'll be right back. Hey, we're back with more Live from the Heartland. I'm Michael James, and we're recording this show on the 1st of February for our Saturday broadcast and stream on WLUW. Of course, you can get it on youtube.com/Heartland Media, a bunch of other places. My next guests are going to be Joe Iosbaker and Frank Chapman. They're both involved with the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, and they're both real active in the Police District Council elections. We just finished talking to Marilyn Pagan Banks. I let everybody know who listened to the earlier part of the show that you gentlemen would be on. Frank will join us shortly. The reason I connected with you, Joe, was because I saw that the strike at the University of Illinois was over. And I wanted you to fill us in on that, which I'm going to have you do now, because we got a few minutes till Frank comes, and then we'll get to the nitty gritty on a real opportunity for community control of police. So how are you today? And tell us all about the University of Illinois strike.
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael. Great to see you again, my old friend. UIC has become Strike City. There's pretty much been a strike every year at UIC since 2012. It's what happens when you've got Republicans in Springfield running an institution of higher education in Chicago. They've got to learn, as we like to say, the Chicago way. So the faculty went out. They were out on strike for just 4 days. Management buckled, came back to the table, and gave them, I don't know the whole package. I wasn't in their union. I retired from UIC a year ago. I was in the Service Employees Union, but we're against the same employer. We always, coordinated our bargaining and our contract campaigns, and the solidarity fully exists between our union and their union. But I went down every day as a retiree to walk pickets with the professors. And so what did they get out of it? I know that they got the two starting things. One is for all of the professors who are non-tenure track, their minimum salary is going to be $60,000 a year. And I know you hear that and you got to think the minimum, like the faculty at UIC was starting at less than $60,000 a year. Yeah, they were starting at less than $50,000 a year. It's really, when you consider, how many students get there. It's 35,000 students now at UIC. So these non-tenure track faculty were teaching these enormous classes. it's just exploitation. So they won that. They also got a 10,000 bump up. I think it's $70,000 a year for the tenure track faculty, which again is poverty wages for somebody with a PhD. And then the other thing is they really pushed, what the CTU pioneered, the bargaining for the common good. And
Chicago Teachers Union.
The Chicago Teachers Union. The Teachers Union, I mean, they're both in the same international. The faculty union here at UIC is in the same, American Federation of Teachers, but people are more familiar with the Chicago Teachers Union at the public school system. Anyway, they pioneered this bargaining for the common good, where they take the needs of their students and put it on the bargaining table. And while management at UIC wouldn't put anything in the contract, they did sign a side agreement that they would put more money into the starting point for the common goods element of the demands was for mental health services for the students at UIC. The majority of the students at UIC are working class. The majority of our students are immigrants. The majority of our students, they're the first people in their families to go to college. This has been a horrific, 3 years of pandemic, of uprisings, of violence in the cities because capitalism sucks. And so, our students are living under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So the faculty fought for them as well, which I think is it's what the word solidarity is supposed to mean.
Joe Iosbaker, let me ask you to talk a little bit, to take it from the University of Illinois, Chicago to across the country. We've seen lots of faculty at universities organizing. We've seen lots of teaching assistants organizing, et cetera. What's moving this and what's good about it?
Well, there's two aspects to it. One is that there's a proletarianization of education that's been going on for, 3 generations. There's I remember my old friend Joe Burns published a book called Strike Back, about the rise of public sector unionization, which began in public education, in the public schools back in the 1960s, the first teacher strikes, and we see it with doctors as well. So I worked in the dean's office in the College of Medicine for 20 years at UIC. So I was out on strike, SEIU 73. We were out on strike in the fall of 2020, along with the Illinois Nurses Association. And at the tail end of our strike, we found out, that was a 12-day strike in the fall of 2020, we found out that the interns and residents at the University of Illinois Medical Center unionized while we were on strike, because they've been paid so badly, and treated so badly by management. And they saw the nurses and us shut down the medical center. Like, the university wasn't making any money for 12 days. And the interns said, let's get in on this. So now the only people at UIC who are not unionized is management.
That's as it should be. And maybe they'll be union someday.
It's wall to wall. So anyway, the proletarianization of the professions, has been going on. And then, and the other thing is, as I was joking about it before, but it's true that the administration of the University of Illinois is, even though there's a Democratic administration now, it's really run from Urbana. We're the poor little sister at UIC, and Urbana's administration is Republicans, and they don't know how to relate to you. You're not seeing a strike every year in Urbana. That's they don't know how to treat working class. They don't know how to relate to working class people. They think they can just give us the crumbs off the table, and people are sick of it.
Well, let's hope that the University of Illinois in Urbana not only has better football teams and basketball teams, but gets everyone organized down there. Hello, Frank. I'm Michael James. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, well, Joe and I were just talking a little bit about the University of Illinois, but the real reason that I got you fellows on here is we have these police district council elections, or police oversight board,
Yeah.
I've been saying. And it's a culmination of a lot of hard work, and both of you have been involved with it. I go way back to remembering the Black Panther Party in Oakland and Bobby Seale and community control of police in Uptown back in, well, actually the spring of 66, 67 or so. We started a Citizens Alert as part of the Joint Community Union. And Mary Powers. We took a few busts chasing the police around in those days. We're really at a new place. As my partner, co-producer, and sometimes co-host Katie Hogan points out, this is the furthest Chicagoans have ever gone to reform police behavior and practice. How is it that only two mayoral candidates, Jamal Green and Brandon Johnson, are regularly referencing the district council election and the consent decree itself? Either of you want to take that on?
Well, I'll take it on if Joe doesn't mind. Yeah, well, this is nothing new from the top. We haven't been getting any cooperation or collaboration with those that occupy the top seat of power here in Chicago, the mayor's office, ever. And what cooperation we did get with regard to Mayor Lightfoot, that was forced through a mass movement. And I was on the negotiating committee. I sat through those negotiations. We had to negotiate every line of this new ordinance. We had to fight for it. It was a very rough go. And then after we won that fight, we didn't win it 100%, but we won it to a significant extent that got us to where we are now. After we won that, it came time for implementation. The mayor's office closed down on us. We had to fight all over again to get them to help out. So I'm not surprised with what's coming from the top. So the people who are running for that office, who want to continue with the status quo, of course they're not going to support us. They're not going to. The people who are running for that office, who are challenging the status quo, it's only logical that they would support us.
For people out there listening or watching, we basically have an election in Chicago on the 28th of February, and we're going to elect 66 members of this new, police oversight board or police district councils. And there are, I know up here in the 49th, 50th ward, we have a slate of people who are running. And we had one of them on earlier on the show, Marilyn Pagan Banks, and we've had Veronica Areola on. How about talking to us about the movement around town in other wards and other neighborhoods, South Side, West Side? I imagine this is really kicking in and people are participating and really looking forward to an election that will bring them some kind of a means to have a better situation in relationship with the Chicago Police Department. Fill us in.
Well, you want me to go again, Joe?
Go ahead. You can do all the talking.
Okay. Well, on the south side and west side of Chicago, we really have a very dynamic process going on. As I often say, 90% of the people running on the south and west sides of Chicago are brown and black, and mostly working class, and a significant number of poor people. 90% of them have never ran for public office before. I would say 99% of them have never ran for a public office. So this is truly a grassroots movement involving people who haven't been on the bottom, but who are on the bottom present, and also they represent communities that have been really criminalized, abused by the police, and also they've had a high incidence of police murders. So these are the people, and a lot of these people who are running on the South Side and the West Side, they have been victimized by the police themselves. Now they're not running because they have a vendetta. They're running because they believe that the people in the community need to have a voice, and that voice has been ignored over and over and over again. And so they're running to get that voice heard. So we have a very unique opportunity here, and a very strong and unique movement on the South Side and the West Side.
So most of the candidates for this board are people who would, for lack of a better way of putting it, would be kind of pro the community side of the relationship with the police. I'm wondering, I know up here on the north side I think it's the 22nd district, I'm not sure what it's actually called, we have people on the ballot who are probably closer to the fraternal order of the police than they are to community control of the police. I'm wondering what it's like down there. I know up here there's been some attempts to knock, I think across the city, to knock some people off the ballot. Can you talk a little bit about that and who the candidates are and what opposition they're getting?
Yeah, there was some attempt to knock people off the ballots, and we lost a couple of candidates that got knocked off. I think in the 25th district, we know that this is being engineered by the FOP. They spent about $25,000 to try to target our people, but for the most part, they have been unsuccessful. Overwhelmingly, most of our people have been able to stay on the ballot, and a lot of those challenges that they threw at us, we drove them back. We defeated them.
Frank, let me ask you, what are the actual,
including our comrades and our friends on the north side, because they tried to get them off the ballot. They tried to knock some of the slates off the ballot.
Yeah, they have.
They lost that fight.
Yeah, well, let's hope it continues. I know that we had a victory on that just this week, but who knows what they're going to attempt to do. Frank, let me ask you.
You just have to keep on fighting, that's all.
Right on. What powers do the Community Commission, or does the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability have? So what kind of power will the police district councils have?
Well, the police district council is going to be the eyes and ears of the citywide commission. They're going to be the eyes and ears. In other words, that commission is going to be driven by what the people in the police districts who live in the police districts say that they want in terms of public safety. And so we see the representatives in the district councils being the eyes and ears of the commission. The commission is empowered by law to look at all aspects of policing in this city. By law, we have the mandate to have complete oversight. In other words, all policies we can question, and also we can initiate changes if policies have been particularly harmful to the community, like the unwarranted use of deadly force, like breaking in people's houses without a warrant, stop and frisk. These are policies that have been deadly to our people, and so we can change those policies, or even get them eliminated. We have the power to do that, and we intend to exercise that power. Now, in terms of what the community wants along specific lines for their particular district, that's going to be determined by the people who live in that district, and they're going to let the representatives in that district know what their needs are. The main thing about it is that they have right now they have right now a decisive voice in saying who polices their communities and how their communities are policed. So we intend to do something about racist policing, racist cops policing in our communities. You know, that's high on the agenda. And now we have the ability to do something about it. We can hire and fire the head of COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. That's the investigative body. That's the body that investigates police crimes, police misconduct, and so on. So we have a tremendous influence over that body. At this stage of the game, that body is beginning to cooperate with us to work with the commission. So we're about to see a new day here in Chicago. I know the FOP ain't ready for it, but we're going to get the people of Chicago ready for it.
Let's do a little history on this, how this all started in Chicago. I mean, I referenced earlier the Citizens Alert, and I did talk about Bobby Seale, but there was someone who was killed here in Chicago, and I think that was what really kicked things off. One of you want to share a little information on that?
Well, I think with us, with our movement, National Alliance Against Race and Political Repression, that would be Fred Hampton.
Well, yeah.
You know, that's what kicked out because this movement started a long time ago. Now,
I understand that. I just kind of go ahead.
Recently, within the last decade, the two murders have been very, very decisive in firing up our movement, and that is the murder of Laquan McDonald,
yeah,
and the murder of George Floyd. Although he wasn't in Chicago, he fired up a movement here, you know. But the Laquan McDonald murder, I would say, more than any other, put our people in the streets for weeks.
How about Rekia Boyd?
Rekia Boyd is what got us started.
Right.
Rekia Boyd in 2012, we met 1 month after she was murdered. I think she was murdered in March. We met in April, and we formed a CPAC,
Police Accountability Council.
Yes, Civilian Police Accountability Council. We've been moving so fast since then. I never got the name, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Rekia Boyd got us started. We formed that committee as a result of her murder, and so this campaign was really kicked off as a result of her murder.
Well, you know, we keep seeing these murders happen around the country. We're dealing with one now. Tyree Nichols was just killed in Memphis, and it was pretty heinous, and it's getting a lot of attention. How about either you or Joe talking a little bit about the national move? Because now that we have this district council here in Chicago, we're probably in a much better place, you know, potentially than a lot of other jurisdictions around the country. And I'm just wondering if you could talk about the movement around the country for community control of police. How's it going?
That's Frank. That's Frank as well, because he also chairs. He's the national director, executive director
Joe,
of the National Alliance.
You can open it up, Joe.
All right. Well, the point is that you know, after the George Floyd rebellion, we saw this law and order backlash, which is still playing out, as you described earlier, Michael, in the Chicago mayoral election, where everybody is, all of the candidates except for Brandon and Jamal, and to a lesser extent Rod Sawyer, are talking about more police and more money for the police, and policing as the solution to the crisis of public safety. But the other thing that happened after the George Floyd rebellion is the National Alliance was reestablished, and we now have 22 affiliates. And every one of those affiliates, there's organizing going on in Jacksonville, Florida, in Dallas, Texas, in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis in particular, in LA, in Milwaukee. And these committees are using what we've accomplished in Chicago as a template. You know, there's going to be, you know, when you can't, you know, all the talk about police, this crisis of police terror, but no resolution, no progress. When people see what's happening here, it's going to cause it's going to cause a ripple effect. People are going to look at it and say, let's try that.
Well, go ahead.
We just add to that. We got people from all over the country coming in here to help us. We got people from New York coming in. We got people from DC coming in. We got people from Louisiana coming in. We got people from Texas coming in. We got people from Minneapolis. People who just in here from Milwaukee. People came in here from Virginia. Why are they coming? Why are they coming from all over the country? Well, part of it has to do with the fact that the National Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression is a national organization, so we're calling upon them to come. But the other thing has to do with is that they see how important this is for their cities. They see that this is the only city in the nation that a movement like this is going on, and that it's about not redeveloping some trust that never existed in the first place between the community and the police. It's about power. It's about empowering our people to do something about this problem.
Well, I'm really glad that it's going on. I know up here in the 49th Ward and around, we have this slate and we're supporting them. And we are, through Michael Harrington and other people, we've been kept abreast of all the dynamics of this whole process. And we're going to have you both back on in the near future, talk about how it's going or whatever other issues are in the forefront. Chicago is the center of the universe in a lot of ways. And what we do here really emanates around the world. We have people from all different places come here together. They talk about it being a segregated city, but it's a crossover city. There's a lot of people crossing over and influencing each other. And you guys are in the forefront, and I'm appreciative of that, as are many other people. That's it. We got to vote on February 28th. And people can vote now.
All power to the people.
Why don't each of you give us a little 1 or 2 sentence final roundup before we have to head on out?
Well, I'm gonna refer back to a famous speech made by Malcolm X. The ballot or the bullet. Either we beat them at the ballot box, or they're going to continue to beat us with the bullets.
That's a good version of that one. How about you, brother?
So I just want to say that my union was the first union in Chicago to get behind the CPAC legislation and then help to build a coalition of labor unions. And that's the other special formula, the special sauce that the Chicago movement for community control of the police has pioneered. And people around the country are looking at this as well. Throughout U.S. history, the times that the working class has made the greatest gains is when the Black liberation movement and the labor movement have come together. And I'm very proud that the Chicago working class has picked up and joined this movement as well.
Right on, brothers. I want to thank you both for coming on live from the Heartland. I want to thank everybody who's been tuned in for this week's edition. This is number 138 of the Zooms at home since the beginning of the pandemic. And we get to talk to people all around the world. We get to share information. I want to thank everybody at WLUW for making it possible, at CAN TV. We can be seen at youtube.com/Heartland Media. Thanks to my co-producers, Katie Hogan, Tom Clark, Lynn Orman. Thanks to Hal James, and thanks to both Frank Chapman and Joe Iosbaker and Marilyn Pagan Banks today. You all keep doing good in the world, because the world needs all the good that we all do together. All power to the people.